Amelia Parker checked her reflection in the elevator mirror for the third time that morning, tugging at the collar of her blouse. The bruise on her neck was still visible, despite her best efforts with concealer and strategic hair placement. She cursed herself for the careless moment at the gym. The night before, when the resistance band had snapped back against her skin. Of all the times to have an accident, it had to be on a Monday when she had. Back-to-back meetings with Jackson Reed. The elevator doors opened to the 42nd floor of Reed Industries, and Amelia stepped into the pristine reception area. The morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting geometric shadows across the marble floors. She had worked as Jackson's executive assistant for 18 months now, and every day still felt like walking into a cathedral of corporate power. Good start. I need to establish the setting, introduce Amelia, and show the mark. Let me continue building the tension as she encounters Jackson. I need to make sure I'm hitting around 1,400 words for this part. Morning, Amelia, her colleague Jennifer called from the reception desk. Mr. Reed is already in. He asked for you the moment you arrive. Amelia's stomach tightened. Jackson was always early, but he rarely summoned her first thing unless something urgent had come up. She dropped her bag at her desk and grabbed her tablet, making her way to his corner office. Through the glass walls, she could see him standing by the window, phone pressed to his ear, his other hand shoved deep in his pocket. Even from this distance, she could see the tension in his shoulders beneath his tailored navy suit. She knocked lightly and entered when he gestured without turning around. His office was a study in minimalist luxury with dark wood furniture, leather chairs, and abstract art that probably cost more than her annual salary. Amelia had been in this room hundreds of times, but today it felt different somehow, more intimate. I'll call you back, Jackson said abruptly into the phone and ended the call. When he turned to face her, his gray eyes swept over her in that assessing way of his that always made her feel simultaneously scrutinized and seen. Those eyes lingered for a fraction of a second on her neck before moving to meet her gaze. Good morning, Amelia. We need to go over the Morrison proposal before the 10 o'clock meeting, of course, she replied, taking her usual seat across from his desk. I've compiled all the revisions you requested, but Jackson didn't sit down. Instead, he moved closer, stopping just a foot away from her chair. Amelia could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that she had come to associate with late nights at the office and conference rooms. Your hair is different today, he observed, his voice carrying an edge she couldn't quite identify. I just pulled it to one side, Amelia said, instinctively touching the waves that cascaded over her right shoulder. Did you want to start with the financial projections or the timeline? What happened to your neck? The question came sharp and direct, completely ignoring her attempt to redirect to business. Amelia's hand flew to the bruise before she could stop herself. It's nothing. Just a minor accident. It doesn't look like nothing. Jackson's jaw was tight, and there was something burning in his eyes that she had never seen before. What kind of accident leaves a mark like that? Mr. Reed, I really think we should focus on the Morrison proposal. She opened her tablet with slightly shaking fingers. We only have 40 minutes before the meeting. Answer the question, Amelia. He pulled his chair around the desk and sat down directly in front of her, close enough that their knees almost touched. How did you get that, Mark? Her breath caught. In 18 months of working together, Jackson had never been this personal, this invasive. He was always professional to a fault, maintaining the perfect balance of friendly and distant. But right now, there was nothing distant about him. He leaned forward slightly, and Amelia found herself pressed back in her chair. I don't see how that's relevant to our work, she managed to say, though her voice came out less steady than she intended. Humor me. The words were soft but carried an unmistakable command. Did someone hurt you? The concern in his voice surprised her. No, of course not. It was just a stupid accident at the gym. A resistance band snapped. She watched his expression carefully, seeing the way his shoulders dropped slightly with what looked like relief. You're sure? He pressed. Because if someone put their hands on you, I need to know. Amelia's heart began to race, not from fear, but from the sudden realization of what was happening. Jackson Reed, the man who dated supermodels and socialites, who graced the covers of business magazines, who could have any woman he wanted, was acting jealous. The thought seemed impossible, and yet here he was, studying her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. I'm sure, she said quietly. It was just me being clumsy with gym equipment. Jackson held her gaze for a long moment before finally nodding and standing up. He moved back to his side of the desk, putting professional distance between them once more. But when he looked at her again, something had shifted. The careful walls he always maintained had cracks in them. "Good," he said, his voice returning to its usual controlled tone. "That's good. Now, about the Morrison proposal." They worked through the documents for the next half hour, but Amelia couldn't concentrate. She kept catching Jackson's eyes drifting to her neck, his jaw tightening every time he noticed the mark. When she stood to leave for the meeting, he stopped her with a hand on her arm. The touch was brief, but electric. "Amelia," he said, and there was something vulnerable in his expression that made her chest ache. "If you ever need anything, if anyone ever makes you uncomfortable or threatens you in any way, you come to me. Understand?" "I understand, Mr. Reed, thank you." She meant to leave it at that, meant to walk away and maintain the professional boundaries they had always kept. But something reckless stirred inside her, some devil on her shoulder that wanted to test this new dynamic between them. "Though I have to say, your concern seems rather personal for an employer." His eyes darkened. "Maybe it is." The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Amelia's pulse thundered in her ears. This was dangerous territory, crossing lines that could cost her everything. And yet she couldn't seem to step back. "I should go prepare the conference room," she said, though she made no move toward the door. "Amelia." Jackson moved closer again, and this time there was no pretense of professionalism. "I need to know. Is there someone in your life? Someone who would leave marks on your skin?" She could have answered simply, could have told him no, and ended this strange tension. Instead, she tilted her head slightly and said, "Would it matter if there was?" The muscle in his jaw jumped. "It would matter to me." "Why?" The question came out barely above a whisper. "Why would it matter to you, Mr. Reed?" For a moment she thought he might actually answer, might put into words whatever this was that crackled between them. But then his phone buzzed with a reminder about the meeting, and the spell broke. He stepped back, running a hand through his dark hair in a gesture of frustration. "The meeting," he said roughly. "We should go." Amelia nodded and walked to the door, acutely aware of his eyes on her with every step. Just before she left, she glanced back over her shoulder. Jackson was standing by his desk, watching her with an expression of such naked longing that it stole her breath. In that moment, Amelia made a decision. She wasn't going to explain away the mark just yet. Let him wonder. Let him imagine. Let him feel a fraction of what she had felt every time she watched him smile at beautiful women at company events or read about his dates in the society pages. If Jackson Reed wanted to know about the mark on her neck, he would have to admit why it mattered so much to him. And until he did, Amelia would let the mystery sit between them, a catalyst for whatever was about to unfold. The game had begun, and for the first time since she started working for him, Amelia Parker held all the cards. The week that followed was unlike anything Amelia had experienced in her professional life. Jackson found reasons to call her into his office at least 6 times a day, his eyes always finding that mark on her neck first, before addressing whatever business matter he claimed needed her attention. She caught him staring during meetings, noticed how his hands would clench when she laughed at something a colleague said, saw the way his entire body went rigid when anyone stood too close to her. On Wednesday morning, Ryan Foster started in the marketing department. He was handsome in an easy, approachable way, with sandy hair and warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. Within hours of arriving, he had found his way to Amelia's desk with questions about office procedures that he could have easily asked human resources. "So this is where the magic happens," Ryan said, leaning against her desk with a friendly grin. "Jennifer told me you're the person who really runs this place." Amelia smiled politely. "Jennifer exaggerates. I just help keep Mr. Reed organized. Still, I'd love to pick your brain about the company culture here. Maybe over coffee sometime?" Ryan's interest was clear and uncomplicated. The kind of straightforward attention that would have flattered her under normal circumstances. Perhaps during lunch in the cafeteria, Amelia offered diplomatically, "I'm usually pretty busy with coffee breaks." From across the open office space, she could feel Jackson's gaze burning into them. When she glanced toward his office, he was standing at his window, phone in hand but clearly not using it. Watching their interaction with an expression that could freeze water, Ryan followed her gaze and straightened slightly. "Is Mr. Reed always so intense?" "That's just his working face," Amelia said, though her heart was racing. "You'll get used to it." After Ryan left, Amelia's phone buzzed with an internal message from Jackson. My office. Now. She found him pacing behind his desk like a caged animal. Who was that? He demanded the moment she closed the door. Ryan Foster, the new marketing director? He had some questions about office procedures. Seemed very interested in those procedures. Jackson's voice was tight, with barely controlled emotion. Leaning on your desk, making you smile like that. He was being friendly. That's what people do when they're new. Amelia crossed her arms, feeling a surge of satisfaction at his obvious jealousy. Is there actual work you needed to discuss? Or did you call me in here to question my interactions with colleagues? Jackson stopped pacing and turned to face her fully. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me lose my mind over you? The admission was so raw, so honest, that Amelia felt her defensive posture soften. Jackson, I don't know what you want from me. You're my boss. We've worked together for 18 months. We've never shown any sign that you saw me as anything other than your assistant. Now suddenly you're acting like you have some claim on me. I know I don't have a claim, he said, moving around the desk toward her. I know I have no right to feel this way. But that doesn't change the fact that I do. Seeing that mark on your neck made me realize something I've been denying for months. I can't stand the thought of someone else touching you, kissing you, making you smile the way you smile. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. What exactly have you been denying? Before Jackson could answer, his office door opened, and Vanessa Brooks swept in without knocking. She was stunning in a crimson dress that hugged every curve. Her dark hair falling in perfect waves, her smile calculated and predatory. Jackson, darling, Vanessa purred, completely ignoring Amelia's presence. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Actually, Vanessa, we were in the middle of something, Jackson said. But Vanessa was already moving to kiss both his cheeks in that affected way wealthy people did. I was just in the neighborhood and thought we could discuss the merger over lunch. You know how much better business goes when mixed with pleasure? Vanessa's hand lingered on Jackson's arm, her red nails stark against his dark suit. Amelia felt something ugly twist in her chest. This was what jealousy felt like from the other side, and she hated it. Vanessa Brooks was everything Amelia wasn't. Polished, sophisticated. From Jackson's world of country clubs and charity galas, they looked right together in a way that made Amelia feel small and insignificant. I have meetings all afternoon, Jackson said, gently removing Vanessa's hand from his arm. Perhaps another time. Oh, don't be boring, Jackson. Surely your assistant can reschedule a few meetings. Vanessa finally looked at Amelia, her gaze dismissive. You can do that, can't you, dear? Mr. Reed's schedule is quite full today, Amelia said coolly, proud that her voice didn't shake. But I can check next week's availability if you'd like to set up a proper appointment. Vanessa's smile sharpened. How efficient. Jackson, you've trained her well, Vanessa. Jackson's voice held a warning note. Amelia is my executive assistant, not a pet. I'd appreciate if you showed her the respect she deserves. For a moment, Vanessa looked genuinely surprised. Then she laughed, a tinkling sound that grated on Amelia's nerves. Of course, my apologies. I'll call your secretary to schedule that lunch. She air-kissed Jackson's cheeks again. Don't work too hard, darling. After Vanessa left, silence filled the office. Amelia turned to go, but Jackson caught her wrist. Wait, don't leave like this. Like what? She couldn't keep the hurt from her voice. I have work to do, Mr. Reed, and apparently meetings to reschedule for your lunch dates. I'm not having lunch with her, Jackson said urgently. I'm not interested in Vanessa Brooks. You don't owe me any explanations? I'm just your assistant, remember? Amelia pulled her wrist free. The one you've trained well. Amelia, that's not what I think of you, and you know it. Jackson ran his hands through his hair in frustration. I defended you to her, didn't I? Yes, you did. Thank you for that professional courtesy. She knew she was being unfair, knew she was lashing out because seeing Vanessa touch him had made her ache in ways she didn't want to examine. But she couldn't seem to stop herself. This isn't about professional courtesy, Jackson said, his voice dropping low. This is about the fact that watching Ryan Foster flirt with you made me want to fire him on the spot. This is about how I can't sleep because I keep thinking about who might have put that mark on your neck. This is about how I've spent 18 months pretending I don't notice everything about you. And I can't pretend anymore. Amelia stared at him. her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I'm falling for you, Amelia Parker. Actually, I think I've already fallen. I'm saying that I know it's inappropriate and complicated and probably a terrible idea, but I can't help it. I'm saying that if there's any chance you feel even a fraction of what I feel, I need to know." The words hung between them, a confession that changed everything. Amelia thought about all the times she had admired him from afar, convinced he would never see her as anything more than competent help. She thought about the flutter in her stomach every time he smiled at her, the way she found excuses to stay late when he was working, the jealousy that had consumed her watching Vanessa touch him. "There's no one," she said quietly. "The mark was really just an accident. I let you think otherwise because I wanted to see if you cared, if there was any possibility that you saw me as more than just your assistant." Jackson's eyes widened. "You mean all week I've been torturing myself over nothing?" "Not nothing. You've been torturing yourself over your own feelings." Amelia stepped closer to him. "And for what it's worth, I've been falling too. Every time you smile at something I say, every time you remember how I take my coffee, every time you defend me or trust me with something important, I've been falling and terrified because you're Jackson Reed, and I'm just the girl who manages your calendar." "You are so much more than that," Jackson said fiercely. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. "You're brilliant and funny and the best part of every single day. When I wake up, the first thing I think about is seeing you. When I go to bed, you're my last thought. You're not just anything, Amelia. You're everything." "Jackson," she breathed, and then his lips were on hers. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, as if he was afraid she might disappear. But when Amelia melted into him, when her hands found their way into his hair, the kiss deepened. It was everything she had imagined, and nothing like she expected, both overwhelming and perfectly right. Jackson kissed her like she was precious, like he had been waiting for this moment as long as she had. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jackson rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for so long." "Me too," Amelia admitted, her fingers still tangled in his hair. "But we need to talk about what this means. The company policies, the power dynamic, what people will say." "I know, and we'll figure all of that out." Jackson kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips again softly. "But right now, I just need you to know that this is real for me. You're real for me. Whatever complications come, we'll handle them together." Amelia nodded, believing him despite all the logical reasons she shouldn't. Together, she agreed. They stood there holding each other, both knowing that everything had changed and neither of them wanting to let go. Outside the office, the business world kept spinning. Deadlines loomed and complications waited. But in that moment, wrapped in Jackson's arms with his heart beating against hers, Amelia felt something she hadn't let herself feel in a very long time. She felt hope. The next morning, Amelia woke up with Jackson's arm draped across her waist, his breathing slow and steady against her neck. They had talked until 3 a.m, mapping out how they would navigate their relationship, setting boundaries for work, making promises about honesty and communication. Then they had stopped talking entirely, and Amelia had discovered that Jackson was as thorough and attentive in private as he was in business. Now, in the soft morning light filtering through his bedroom windows, reality began to creep in. She had slept with her boss. She had crossed every professional line she had sworn to maintain, and the terrifying part was that she didn't regret a single second of it. "I can hear you thinking," Jackson murmured against her shoulder, his lips brushing her skin. "What's going on in that brilliant mind?" "Just wondering how we're going to do this," Amelia admitted, turning to face him. His hair was charmingly disheveled, his eyes still soft with sleep, and she had to resist the urge to kiss him senseless. "At the office, how do we act? What do we tell people?" Jackson propped himself up on one elbow, his expression serious. "We tell them the truth, eventually. But first I need to talk to HR and legal, make sure we're doing everything by the book. I won't let this affect your career, Amelia. If anyone has a problem with us, they'll have to go through me. That's exactly what I'm worried about," she said. "People will think I slept my way to any promotion or opportunity. They'll question every decision you make regarding me, though we prove them wrong." Jackson traced her jawline with his thumb. Your work speaks for itself. You're the best assistant I've ever had. And that has nothing to do with how I feel about you personally. They reluctantly got ready for work, Jackson lending her a shirt since she hadn't planned to stay the night. Walking into the office separately felt like a lie, but they both agreed it was necessary until they had talked to HR. Amelia arrived first, settling into her normal routine, though nothing felt normal anymore. Everything had shifted, colored by the memory of Jackson's hands on her skin. His whispered confessions in the dark. Ryan appeared at her desk just after 9, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Peace offering," he said with his easy smile. "I think I came on a bit strong yesterday. Let's start over as friends and colleagues." "That sounds perfect," Amelia said, genuinely relieved. "Thank you for understanding, of course. Though I have to say, you seem different today." "Good, different. Something happen?" Ryan's eyes were kind, not prying. Before Amelia could answer, Jackson emerged from the elevator, his eyes immediately finding her. For a split second, his professional mask slipped, and she saw everything he felt, written clearly on his face. Desire, possessiveness, and something deeper that made her heart race. Then the mask snapped back into place, and he was CEO Jackson Reed again, cool and controlled. "Good morning, Amelia." "Ryan." Jackson nodded at them both. "Amelia, I need to see you in my office when you have a moment." "Of course, Mr. Reed, I'll be right there." After Ryan left, Amelia gathered her tablet and made her way to Jackson's office. The moment the door closed behind her, he pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a hunger that suggested the separation of a few hours had been too long. "I missed you," he murmured against her lips. "Is that insane?" "It's been 40 minutes. Completely insane," Amelia agreed, kissing him back. "I missed you too." A knock at the door made them spring apart. Jennifer from reception peeked in. "Mr. Reed, Vanessa Brooks is here. She says she doesn't have an appointment, but insists you'll want to see her." Jackson's jaw tightened. "Tell her I'm busy," I tried. "She's quite persistent." Jennifer looked apologetic. "It's fine," Amelia said quietly. "I'll go. We can continue this discussion later." But as she turned to leave, Jackson caught her hand. In front of Jennifer, in full view of anyone who might pass by his glass office walls, he lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "Tonight, dinner at my place. 7 o'clock. Amelia's eyes widened at the public display, but she nodded, her cheeks flushing. Jennifer's eyes went round as quarters, and Amelia knew that by lunchtime, everyone in the office would know something was happening between her and Jackson. Sure enough, by noon the whispers had started. Amelia felt eyes on her wherever she went, heard conversations stop when she approached. Some looks were curious, others envious, a few openly hostile. She kept her head high and focused on her work. But it was harder than she had anticipated. Vanessa cornered her in the ladies' room that afternoon. "So the rumors are true," she said, reapplying her lipstick in the mirror. "You've managed to snare Jackson Reed? Impressive, really? I didn't think he went for the wholesome girl-next-door type." "I'm not trying to snare anyone," Amelia said evenly, washing her hands. "And whatever is or isn't happening between Mr. Reed and me is private." "Private." Vanessa laughed. "Darling, nothing is private when you're involved with someone like Jackson. You'll be photographed, scrutinized, compared to every woman he's ever dated. Can you handle that? The society pages, the charity events, the business dinners, where everyone will be judging whether you belong." The words hit closer to Amelia's fears than she wanted to admit. "I appreciate your concern, but I can take care of myself. Can you?" Vanessa turned to face her fully. "Jackson and I have known each other since we were children. Our families vacation together. We understand each other's world. What do you have to offer him besides being available and convenient?" Amelia felt anger flare hot in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "If you'll excuse me, I have work to do." She left the restroom with as much dignity as she could muster, but Vanessa's words echoed in her head. What did she have to offer someone like Jackson Reed? She was smart and competent at her job, but there were thousands of smart, competent women in the city. What made her special enough to hold the interest of a man who could have anyone? That evening, Amelia almost canceled dinner. She stood outside Jackson's building for 10 minutes, her phone in her hand, crafting and deleting text messages. But then she remembered the way he looked at her, vulnerability in his voice when he said he was falling for her, the gentleness of his touch. Jackson wasn't the untouchable CEO when they were alone. He was just a man who made her laugh, who listened when she talked, who made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. She went upstairs. Jackson answered the door in jeans and a casual sweater, looking younger and more relaxed than she had ever seen him. "You came," he said, and she heard relief in his voice. "I was worried you might change your mind." "I almost did," Amelia admitted, stepping inside. "Vanessa found me today. She made some good points about how different our worlds are." Jackson's expression darkened. "What did she say to you?" Amelia repeated the conversation, watching his face grow stormier with each sentence. When she finished, he pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her tightly. "Listen to me," he said fiercely. "Vanessa Brooks doesn't know anything about what we have. Yes, she and I grew up in the same social circle. Yes, our families know each other. And every single minute I spent in that world felt like playing a role. With you, I get to be real. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You call me out when I'm being unreasonable. You see me, Amelia, not just the CEO or the trust fund or the family name. That's what you offer me. That's everything." Tears pricked at Amelia's eyes. "The office is talking. People are saying I slept my way to job security, that you're having a midlife crisis, that I'm using you. You care what they think?" Jackson asked gently. "Care about you," Amelia said. "I care about your reputation. I don't want to be the scandal that damages everything you've built. Could never be a scandal. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years." Jackson cupped her face in his hands. "I talked to HR and legal today. Technically, there's no policy against us dating as long as we disclose the relationship, and I'm not directly responsible for your performance reviews or salary decisions. We can do this right, Amelia. We can be together without compromising either of our careers. And when people whisper, when clients question your judgment, when Vanessa and people like her try to make me feel like I don't belong in your world, then we prove them wrong. Together." Jackson kissed her forehead. "I'm not going to lie and say it will be easy. There will be challenges. But I'm willing to face all of them if you are. The question is, do you want this? Do you want me? Complications and all?" Amelia looked into his eyes and saw her future. She saw late nights working on proposals, business dinners where she would have to smile through whispers, society events where she would feel out of place. But she also saw lazy Sunday mornings in bed. Jackson's smile when she made him laugh, the way he held her like she was precious. The partnership they could build both professionally and personally. "I want you," she said simply. "All of it. Even the complicated parts." Jackson's smile was brilliant. "Good, because I'm not letting you go. Not for office gossip. Not for Vanessa Brooks. Not for anyone." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and Amelia felt all her doubts fade away. They would face whatever came together. That was enough. Over the following weeks, they navigated their new reality. Jackson officially disclosed their relationship to HR. Amelia was reassigned a different supervisor for performance reviews to avoid any appearance of favoritism. Some colleagues were supportive, others clearly resentful, but Amelia kept her head down and let her work speak for itself. Ryan became a genuine friend, often covering for them when they needed a moment alone. I had a feeling something was brewing between you two," he admitted one day. "The way he looked at you during that first conversation we had, I knew I didn't stand a chance." Vanessa eventually backed off after Jackson made it clear in a business meeting that Kalia was not only his girlfriend, but also a valued member of his team whose insights he trusted implicitly. The public support meant more to Amelia than any private declaration could have. 3 months after that first kiss in his office, Jackson took Amelia to a charity gala. It was her first major public appearance at his side, and she was terrified. But when they walked in together, his hand warm and solid at the small of her back, she realized something important. She didn't need to be from his world to belong at his side. She just needed to be herself. "You're stunning," Jackson whispered as they posed for photographs. "And you're mine. I'm the luckiest man in this room." "I love you," Amelia said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. It was the first time either of them had said it. For a moment she panicked. But Jackson's smile could have lit up the entire city. "I love you too. I have for a while now." I was just waiting for the right moment to tell you. In front of 300 people and a dozen cameras, Amelia laughed. Why not? Let everyone know. I'm in love with Amelia Parker, and I don't care who knows it. And as they danced together under the glittering chandeliers, surrounded by the same society that Vanessa had claimed Amelia didn't belong to, she realized that she had found exactly where she belonged. Not in this ballroom or this social circle, but in Jackson's arms, in his heart. In the life they were building together, the mark on her neck had faded weeks ago, but the impact it had made remained. It had been the catalyst that pushed them, both to admit what they felt, to take a risk on something real, and as Jackson spun her across the dance floor, whispering promises of forever in her ear, Amelia silently thanked that resistance band for snapping. Sometimes the best things in life started with a simple accident and a man jealous enough to demand the truth. They had their truth now. They had each other. That was more than enough. It was everything. Thank you for taking Theo time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click like, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.